Do you have a Porsche?
Do you like it in your radio?
We're going to show you how to install one in this Porsche here. So stay tuned. So to remove the radio, you actually start in the back here. On these little carpeted panels, there's a T27 Torx in it that you need to remove on each side. Now this piece here comes next, and there's two T25 Torx holding that in place. Kind of work from the bottom, and it's just going to unclip. You hear it, and slide it forward just like that. Set it aside. Next, right here, there's one 7mm bolt that you have to remove. Alright, so it's about an inch long, so it takes some time. Next, there's four here, and here, 5mm twisty things that twist and push down the tabs. So on the side of the radio, the 5mm push tabs you're talking about are located right here. And what you have is this guy here. It pushes this out, and as you turn it, it sucks it in. So as you can see, out, in. That's why I went on the driver's side. If you want, you don't even have to turn them. You can just push. If you got strong fingers, you can just push all four of them in, and then kind of slide the radio out. The passenger side is fairly easy. This one is really the hardest. That's why it's easier just to push it with your finger and slide the radio out. Okay, so you're gonna. Now the top one on this side is really hard to get to, but there's a push tab. You can actually just push your finger in there and push it in, and then slide the radio out. So now that you have the radio loose and free, if you're ultra paranoid, what you may want to do is put a piece of tape here to make sure that you don't do any accidental scratching or anything like that. So go ahead and do this, because we have to do some testing at this point to see what we have for a radio. So go ahead and slide it out. Now this is the antenna here, and what we want to test for is what kind of antenna it is, meaning is it an amplified or a non-amplified antenna. And how you do that is with a test light or a voltmeter, simply by go ahead and turning the radio on, and then there's a center pin inside of this. You just want to touch that center pin with your voltmeter or your test light. So very carefully touch the center pin. If it shows nothing, that means it's a non-amplified antenna. It's going to take a regular generic antenna. If it was to light up red, that means it's an amplified antenna, so you're going to need a different style adapter. Next, what you want to do is unplug these two orange cables here. These are the fiber optic. You want to see if this is using a fiber optic amplifier or just a analog amplifier. So we'll go ahead and unplug it, plug the antenna back in, turn up the sound. Alright, so we're getting sound. Go ahead and unplug the top one. So what this is telling us is that we have an analog system. And how to further test that, go ahead and unplug the top brown connector. Okay. And you can take your tone generator, go ahead and turn it on. And now what you want to do is go into and test your speakers. As we said before, test all four. Now if all four corners chime, you're golden. This has just a standard analog amplifier that you can integrate into. Go ahead and turn the radio off, and go ahead and unplug the last power plug. Now we're done with this radio, we can go ahead and take it over to the bench. All right, now let's take a look at the parts we're gonna need for this install. All right, so to do this install, we're gonna use Best Kits by PAC, BKPOR 911S dash kit. Let's take a look and see what comes in the bag. You get a pocket if you're gonna do a single DIN. You get the left and right brackets to mount the radio. And of course the silver dash trim bezel. Let's go put this in the car and see how it looks. Make sure it fits and looks good. For this, we're gonna do a Kenwood DDX 394-SAT. The customer wants Sirius XM in their car, so we're gonna go ahead and use this guy because it comes with the Sirius XM tuner. Now, what we wanna do first is test it out, make sure there's no gaps. And then of course we'll put the sides on. These sides are designed to just clip into this space here. They have these little teeth right here. So, and they're clearly marked left and right. So we'll go ahead and put this one on the left. Put this one on the right. All right, now we just want to slide it over the top of the radio and check out your spacing. At this point, we'll go ahead and turn it on its side. For this install, you want to make sure you use the tapered screws and not the flat screws. And what I mean by that, they come with a screw that has a slight taper and then a screw that's made to be surface mounted. You don't want this one, you want this one. Because when you're screwing it in, it needs to be flat so that this slides into the dash. Go ahead and pick some locations. There again, just kind of rub your finger over it so that you don't have anything sticking up, so that you don't want it to hit when you're sliding it into the dash. Okay, so this side is good here. Flip it over and repeat on the other side. All right, so now what you want to do is take a look at your gapping, make sure it's not off by a hair. If it is, of course, loosen it up, get it straight. You want it to look nice in the dash. So for this, we're done with this portion of the radio install. We're gonna move on now to the wiring harness. So for this install, we're gonna be using the Bpxster BHA 1784. So this is the harness right here. It's a very common European style harness. Now it has two funky colored wires, which is a yellow-red and a red-yellow. The reason why it has this is depending on which car you have, your constant 12 volts is either gonna be here or here, and your accessory is gonna be here or here. Now in this car, it has no accessory, so the red wire is non-existent, and the yellow wire is actually here. So we can either use this wire or repin it. I prefer to repin it. The other thing too is that it has an amp turn on that isn't located here, it's actually located here. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this, move this where it needs to be, and swap these two. Now the other thing it doesn't have is an illumination wire in the harness. We're just gonna remove that one as well. All right, so now we have the harness where we want it. Let's go ahead and attach our aftermarket radio to it. So as a recap, what are all these wires for? We have a set of whites, solid and stripe. White is gonna be driver's front. We have a set of grays, solid stripe. The solid is positive, the stripe is negative. This is going to be passenger front. Green is driver's rear. Purple is passenger rear. Black is ground. In this case, the yellow with a red stripe is memory or constant 12 volts. Blue-white is gonna be amplifier turn on, and blue is going to be antenna, amplified antenna turn on. Let's go on and get this wired up. So for the ignition wire, we like to use these little bullet connectors so that we have a removable harness that's totally removable, and they have a male and female end, but any male or female connector will work too. All right, we have our harness. So the last piece of the equation is this guy right here, the BAA22. This is the antenna adapter that's going to plug into the factory antenna and give us a standard antenna. So for the USB, we're gonna go ahead and use one of these Pack Audio USB DMA1s. We're gonna mount it right here below where the cigarette lighter is. For the Sirius XM antenna, we're gonna go ahead and mount it here in the center of the roof. We're gonna line it up with the S in Porsche. You want to measure this distance between the edge here and this by opening and closing the roof so that it doesn't hit the antenna. Find the right amount of distance for it.
Yeah, perfect.
Good. Then what you have to do is run the antenna under this gasket. You're just gonna make like a loop, and then you're gonna run it into the car that way. Now, a lot of people like to just put the Sirius XM antenna on the dash. That's fine if you're cool with it dropping out all the time. Here, you just don't get good reception unless it's on the outside of the vehicle. So one of the problems with the Sirius XM antennas is that they're magnetic. They attract all kinds of dirt to them and typically scratch the paint. So what you want to do is put a little piece of clear vinyl underneath them to avoid that. So make sure before you put the vinyl on that you clean the surface. Use the alcohol wipes that it come with, maybe a microfiber cloth just to buff the area dry. So what we have here is we've marked the farthest back with some blue tape so we know where. We're gonna line it up with the S. Wash your hands because clear tape shows everything. You just wanna kinda lay it on there. One thing that's not in the factory wiring harness is the accessory wire. We have to tap the fuse box for that. So while we're running the Sirius XM and the Bluetooth, we're gonna go ahead and grab an accessory wire, which of course we'll show you a close-up once we get it in there. So we went to the fuse box to tap the accessory fuse. What did you do, Fernando?
In this fuse box, it's a lot of open spaces. So we actually find accessory fuse right here next to the 70.5. We grab a fuse, attach a terminal, and run the wire. Now the trick is this panel, it's very flat. We have to cut a little bit of the plastic so you can actually go, and then this ones go perfectly.
Now the other thing to note too is that the live portion of the fuse is on the bottom.
Yes.
And we've tapped
the top.
So if there is a short, it will blow the fuse. Now one other thing, we went ahead and mounted the Bluetooth mic up by the rear view mirror, ran it all the way down the side A pillar here. Yeah. This is also where the Sirius XM ran along the surface there. So in the dash we have this bundle of wire here that has the new accessory, the Sirius XM, and the Bluetooth mic. Now we're going to route it around the back pillar here so that it's out of the way. We're also going to mount the Sirius XM up under here in the back. We're going to Velcro it to this shelf right here so that it's out of the way. Alright, so now what we want to do is plug in our antenna adapter. Want to go ahead and plug in our brown speaker plug, our black power plug. This third plug is not going to be used, and neither is the fiber optic, so just kind of tuck them away. And then we want to go ahead and connect our red accessory wire. Alright, so at this point it's safe to go ahead and plug in the radio. Now we're just going to set it here. We're going to go ahead and turn it on and make sure everything works.
$60 no interest, no money down, no minimum purchase.
Alright, cool. We have sound. Go ahead and turn it back off. Now before we slide this thing in the dash, let's talk about a couple things real quick that we just kind of, you may have not caught. So in the main harness, we had talked about it missing certain things or things that needed to be moved. If you notice this black orange wire right here, this is the remote turn on. This is one of the wires that needed to be moved. This big fat red wire is the constant 12 volts. That was also one that we switched. If you'll notice, there's a bunch of open holes. This bottom one next to the brown would have been the accessory, but it's not there. That's why we ran it. And of course, the illumination would have been between the red and brown, which isn't there, so we removed that pin as well. So that's what we did on the harness. Now let's go take a look under the hood for a second. You'll see this guy right here. This is actually the factory amplifier. Now the unique thing about this is it's using factory high level out of the radio into the amplifier, and then this will turn on and create the sub and the center channel output. You can actually just leave this amplifier in, let it do its thing if there's nothing wrong with it, or if you want to add in a new amplifier you can do that as well, but it's not necessary to replace this. It will turn on when you power up that black orange wire. It'll turn this thing on. So there we go. This is what it looks like in the dash. Now the color is just like one shade off, which, you know, with these aftermarket dash kits, that's pretty common practice. It looks good though. We can turn it up. And all the speakers in the doors are working. So we have the tweeters in the dash, the mid-range, the mid-bass, as well as the center channel are all functioning. So we're good there. So the Sirius XM antenna located on the back of the car. Alright guys, if you have a Porsche Cayman, you're looking to replace the radio, we hope this video helps you out a little bit. You good?
Yeah.
Alright, this was fun as always. Fernando, if you please.
Thank you for watching. You guys can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
We're also on Twitter now too, so if you're into following us and want to get updates when we're actually going to go live, check us out on Twitter.
What's the name of the tweet?
The number 5 *_ car stereo. Which reminds us, every Monday night at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, we do a Facebook Live show. You guys have a great night, and we will see you later next time.